hello and welcome to episode 30 of the Nordic Takedown podcast. Today it is me, Jonah, and I also have Victor and Adam with me. Hi, Adam.
Hello. I'm Adam. Hello.
Yeah. I don't know my name.
Yeah.
You're too eager, Victor. That's good. That's the attitude we like. How are you, Victor?
Yes, fine.
Yeah, great. So today's agenda is going to be a bit more on the competitive side. Showdown season is in full swing, and Adam at least has had the opportunity to go to a lot of them. So we're going to probably hear a lot from you about those. And we will try to keep the conversation resolving around tournaments and maybe talk a bit about how to read local meta, because showdowns are store level events and then you might know the store already and the people that play there. But without further ado, let's start with the usual. What have you guys been up to? Victor?
Well, not much this week since last episode, actually. I've been prepping a lot for my decks and trying to tweak them with my friends here in Uppsala. We are doing a lot of tuning of a couple of decks because we have this upcoming Winner Box tournament this weekend at the Card Expo in Stockholm. So we are tuning our decks a little bit, and it's not as serious as what we did before Malmö, but we're taking it. We like this process. It's a fun process, so we're doing what we can.
Yeah, deck building, theory crafting, and ultimately playtesting is super fun. Adam, how's your week been?
My week's been good, but I've been gone now for this is almost 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks since last pod, so it's been a long time. Glad to be back. So I've been playing a lot of Star Wars actually during these weeks. Been to 3 store showdowns, grabbed 2 of them.
Nice, so congrats.
Thank you. So that's what I've been up to. Also preparing and writing a little bit about those for every one of those. Even though they are not the biggest tournaments, it's always nice, as you say, Victor, to just practice and have a goal, an agenda for making some difference with your deck. Because if there isn't even a little bit of a tournament, it's then I can just play some jank, right? So that's been fun, and it's been fun listening to the podcast here now, being gone 2 weeks. Obviously, there is incoming beef between me and Victor. We have been talking about it. Can't diss the prequels like that. It's not cool.
Yeah.
I need to defend my boy Jar Jar. No, I'm not gonna die on that hill, but not on Jar Jar hill. But the movies are great sometimes. So that's what I've been up to. You, Jonah, how you been?
I've been good. Sorry. I've been slowly figuring out whether or not I will attend PQ, and it looks like I am actually going to. So that means I'm taking kind of a step back into the competitive side of SU. I've had a bit of a break since I'm located in Trondheim, where no store supports Star Wars Unlimited, sadly. But so I've been trying a couple of different decks now. Also focusing a bit on content creation for the channel. So we have, if you haven't seen yet, some commentary videos for the Swiss games of Malmö Game Week. By the time this episode airs, we will maybe have 3 and a 4th one coming really soon. So check those out. And also having some ideas for maybe some fun deck spotlights we could do. There's this green GI deck I made early in the season that I maybe want to revisit, but it's a casual one. It's obviously not competitive.
So that's not joining you to the PQ?
No, sadly. Yeah, I think that's what I've been up to.
Cool.
And with that, I guess we can kind of dive a little bit deeper, because as you said, Adam, you've been gone for a long time, and haven't had the chance to talk about the showdowns yet, right?
That's true. Been to, so we can go. I'm gonna go a little bit shorter, of course, on the ones that has been for a long time ago. A lot of the listeners already know about those. But like, so 2.5 weeks ago, there was I think it might have been the first store showdown in Sweden. Was in in Göteborg, in Main Stage, which has like multiple, I think, stores around Sweden, right? No, they have something in Norrköping as well, I think. So that was the first one. 11 people played that one. So it's medium like range of people. Most people got a top 8. Let's say that. That was like one of my weirdest tournament experiences. Since we were 11, one person got a bye. That person was me. So I started with a bye, won a game, got down paired, and then played a final. Like basically, so I'd like have a bye and a down pairing in a four Swiss round tournament. So it's kind of felt. I'm not sure how I felt about the victory, like how well deserved it really was, like. But I was bringing Boba Green. That was like I think it was like the week after the Manchester tournament.
Yeah.
With the 30 HP base, which I had never like really thought Boba Green to play around, like 30 HP. I always thought about the ECL one and how to make that one like better, just like the guys from Sweden, Jakob did in Malmö. But that one came out. I made like a version of the deck. I was not happy.
No, because you played only 50 cards in your deck.
Yes, yes. And that was clearly bad.
Yeah, clearly.
And I did cut some cards that should probably not be cut, and I kept some cards that should have been cut with the other cards. So the deck was not really flowing. Like I cut that guy had these patrolling U-wing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Y-wing.
Yeah.
The 1/1 costs 2, draw a card when you play it. Which obviously was there because he also ran Cobb Vanth in the main deck. I cut those and kept Cobb Vanth. That was really awkward.
And that card can be good with choose sides as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But you kept that one as well?
I did keep that one in the sideboard, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, kept that in the side, but I didn't have the Y-Wing in anything. This card is trash out. So the deck was not flowing perfectly, but like since I was playing by Sabine and 2 Gar Saxon decks, that is not my usual practicing. But the guy that went up second, like he had built an aggro version of yellow Gar Saxon, which was quite interesting because he took people by surprise.
That deck is really fun.
Yeah.
Is it very space heavy?
Not
medium,
necessarily.
I think.
Yeah, it's just regular. It's a KTOD deck. It's quite nice.
Okay, so
I did not know where it was from. Maybe it was KTOD or he made it himself a little bit. Like it plays the Crafty Smuggler, the 7th Fleet Defender, and which makes them 1 damage extra. So people were like 8 Scar Saxon, it arrives on turn 6. It's not going to be that dangerous. And then these upgraded units just kept hitting them. Fortunately for me, when someone has played a surprise deck in a tournament and you come up to the final in an 11-person tournament, you know that it's going to be an aggro deck. People talk. So I was not really surprised, and that became like I just knew I was the defender in the game, and then it became pretty easy. So that was the first one. So now but it was a small tournament. It was good. The week after we had one in Lund, which is actually a bigger town than I thought. It's almost 100k, at least when the students are there. It's like in the Malmö area kind of stuff in Sweden, where I was going to play Han Green. I was so determined on playing Han Green, the set 1 Han Green, of course. But there was this other guy. He flexed that he was going to play Ray Blue, which I had also prepped for this, and I was like, if that guy dares to play it, I have to play it too. So I took it, and this was like a 10 people tournament.
Yeah.
And of course, we get matched up in game 1 against each other. So it was a Ray Blue Mirror, and I'd never played that.
Yeah.
So that was... and I completely misread how that matchup went. How would you guys think that Ray Blue versus Ray Blue was going to work?
It's going to be almost like an aggro game, because trying to control each other won't work. You're just going to race, but also heal all the time, right? Draw a bunch of cards, and yeah, I mean, that deck draws cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would probably go quite long, wouldn't it?
Yes. And as Victor said, you draw a lot of cards, and you have so much removal in the deck. So my instinct was, and we have a lot of restore, we are never killing each other. No way. So he played Quill round 1. And I was like, okay, you keep drawing your cards. I'm going to mill you. That is my game plan. Like, we have 3 vigilance each. And I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to let you draw your cards. Like, you're killing yourself, right? Problem was, the matchup doesn't really work like that. It was all about board presence. And he used his early vigilance to get a massive board presence. And the game took 35-40 minutes, game 1, to play. It was obviously dead in 15 minutes, and I didn't just realize it because I haven't played a matchup. So it went to time in game 2. I was probably winning game 2, but I was not gonna finish it out, and then we would never start game 3.
Yeah.
So that was kind of sad that we had to face it there, but I would still have done the same read if we faced in the final later, because
maybe
he
that
went
can be
to
an important takeaway, that if you bring in a deck, make sure you know how the mirror works.
Yeah. That was the spur of the moment. I had 20 games with it, and he had at least 50, I think he said 40-50.
Yeah.
And we had played each other a really grindy matchup last Store Showdown season in Denmark, where I beat him. So it was fun. He then went on to go 4-0, won the whole thing, and nice. I went 3-1. So the Ray decks actually really performed in that. So it wasn't a bad call in the meta, but it was a bit unfortunate that we faced each other right away. And there was a few Bobas, I think 2 or something like that. I didn't get to face them. Yeah. That's what I wanted to face. So
do you want to go on a small tangent just talking about the Ray Blue deck? Or
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Have you guys any experience with it? Victor, have you?
Yeah, we're testing a lot with it right now. Just both with it and against it. It's really strong into Sabine, and it's pretty strong into Boba. And I'd say probably hand to blue is its least favorable matchup, because that deck kind of negates one of the pillars of the deck. The draw is really strong, but hand to blue is really good at removing. It's maybe even better at removing cards. So yeah, and that kind of grind, the hand to blue just grinds a little
maybe
bit
outvalues
better.
you.
Yeah, it's
has
sort of
crates and stuff, right?
Yeah. It kind of grinds slightly better. The Kira matchup can be problematic in our experience as well, but usually you can find an angle, especially post board. It's a decent matchup, but yeah, it's really good into Sabine.
That's interesting. I felt it's 50-50 with me playing it against Sabine, because Ray is so borderline average as a hero, a champion. The deck is really, really strong in my opinion. Its weakness is that the leader Ray has is a bit weak, right? It's not the deck archetype. That's the problem. That she is a bit of the problem when she flips. Her ability is pretty good though, and just that Poe and Wrecker can deal with her so easily and escape hell. Quite easy, and with the time, if it is a Sabine without timely intervention, I think you're right, Victor. Then I think it's very favored. But if they have 2 or 3 timely, they can just keep on coming. if they play well. But on the other hand, I feel like it should smash Boba pretty big because he can't be as fast and doesn't have that. Well, Boba Yellow at least, not Boba Green. Boba Green has more endgame. It's a more grind fest.
So maybe as you said, the leader can be a bit of a problem. So it could be interesting to see if you could run other blue leaders in a double blue shell.
Maybe in the future, because the hero, this is the hero version. I don't think you can run it in the villain side like this, because Quill is so good, in my opinion. Like he makes and tech also makes it's such a good mid-range deck, right? Which also has some pretty good like answers into control because of 3 techs, and like that you just like Han Green from set 1. You draw so many cards, so if they super laser blast you, like which is the board wipe thing, you can play new units. The problem most other decks has that they have 2 cards left when they super laser blast, and they have to have the right cards. This deck doesn't really have that issue, I feel like, which makes it's not one of the strengths of the deck. It's just for me. I think you might have tested it more now, Victor, but than me. It doesn't have any dead matchups, really. Like super dead.
I agree.
That's
No,
cool.
I think like the way that this decks just keep going drawing. I think I haven't tried it into hard control, and that might be a really weak matchup for it, because if their game plan is actually to deck you and they can do that. Then maybe this deck will have some problems. Like your read was that would be a weakness of it, and I hadn't even thought about that, but I think that's probably a way to beat it. But in our Sabine testing, the amount of heal this deck can pull out, especially post-board when they put in the top targets, it's just insane. Like you get to 5 resources and you're at you've made maybe 28 damage to it, and you think I'm within ping reach now, nothing can stop me. But yes, things can stop you. I'm down to 20. 15, 10 10. I was at 28 now. It's insane. And like you say, Ray is slightly weak, but you have to count the heal as part of the swing. She only swings for 3, but she removes for 3 as well. So the complete swing is a 6 swing. And that's actually quite significant.
Yeah, she's pretty strong if she gets to stay on the board. Her weakness is that she can get removed instantly.
It's not like Sabine is such a strong presence,
But she comes out on round 4. But you pay more for Ray. But I agree. And I must say the deck is so fun to play as well.
For this kind of grindy deck, I'd say it's one of the most fun ones.
All right, so maybe going back now from our little tangent to the event, Ray Blue 1 for all. You got what place?
I got 3rd because I lost in the first round, so I had worse tiebreakers than the other 3-1 guy. Which was a Boba Yellow. So it was Ray Blue, Boba Yellow, Ray Blue in that tournament.
And then there was the 3rd one.
Yeah, which was this Sunday, I mean. So just two days ago, I actually went back to Göteborg for their second store showdown at Mystery Shack. And I have to actually shout that store out. That was so fresh. When most gaming shops have very limited air, right? Many have limited air. Lund was great actually because they could open a window, but this one was actually kind of new, kind of fresh. So you actually went into the store and you took a small stair up, and you were playing a little bit above the store and watched it down.
Cool.
I think it had seats for maybe 24 players or something. It was very fresh and very nice. So I really liked that experience. It was And I came back with Boba Green again. I tweeted
changes this time.
Yeah, I made some changes, and I have to shout out Jacob and Jacob again, because they kind of opened my eyes to the card Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That card is so underrated in my opinion, and like my problem with the Boba Green deck that I played like 2 weeks prior to that was it didn't flow right.
Yeah.
It was felt a little bit like the old Krennic green, where you can draw absolute garbage after turn 5, because like you might have been forced to resource some good things and the next thing doesn't draw. Like when you play like if you say greedier list, but a more mid-range list, you have like the more variance. Like if you play aggro, you're just gonna keep drawing low-cost stuff, and you just might not get the optimal one. But when you play like 6-7 drops, they can really occur in the wrong place. But Commission fixed that for a lot during the game. It's also a smuggle card, so you actually run like the Commission and Basin and the DL Hot Shot Blaster. So there's quite a lot to smuggle down versus control. And like one of the plays, I almost play Commission in every game. Like not just every best of 3, almost every game. And like one of the most common play was like we came up to 9 resources. We were low on cards, and I had like done the Boba round, put some pressure, and then play Commission because I haven't seen any fire sprays. Find a fire spray, play it, and like put the kind of the nail in the coffin or the extra pressure. And it's so versatile. You can play turn 1 to find the Greedo, or play it on the Boba flip turn to find the Boba's armor.
That one is really good.
Which made me actually break one of my principles. Like when you play Boba, it's criminal to not play 3 Boba's armor, in my opinion. But when you have Commission, that one basically replaces one Boba's armor, and it can also replace a low drop in the same spot. Which made it easier to fit in 50 cards in this 54 card deck. That's from the beginning. Cobb Vanth also went out. He's in the sideboard because he's good against control, but he's not in the main deck anymore. This tournament was this was one was more difficult. I played Jonathan in turn 1, was Boss Red. Boss Green, I mean. And he won the store showdown in Skövde last season. Knocked me out in the semis. So I knew he was pretty good. So I won that 2-0. Like I just didn't let him play bounties. Like he wanted me to go first, and I was just, I'm gonna pass and I'm gonna ramp. See ya. That was the game plan. Then I played Boba Mirror in game 2, but versus ECL. Which like I just played defense and knew I had more value. Because those decks doesn't run triple Maul, triple Vader, and Walkers. I do. So I just need to get there. And Barrage was insane. I drew more Barrages as well. that helped. Then I played Gustav from Göteborg Geklund in the Swedish Discord. He is a very big driving factor for the Göteborg community, and has been since start of the game, since Göteborg was a bit slow. Nice. So shout out to him for actually making, like last season there was no store showdowns in Göteborg, now there were 2.
That's great.
And a lot of it is thanks to him, so that's really nice.
Kudos.
Closer for me to go as well, so that I'm really appreciative of that. He played Han Yellow, which we have seen some popularity on here in Sweden recently. I think Boba Green 30 HP has a pretty solid matchup into that, because it's hard to do 30 damage with that deck, especially versus so big boys. And since this was a smaller tournament, we were actually the only 2 zeros at that point, because the third one actually lost when he was down paired. So I was sole 3-0 going into round 4, with only like possibility to lose, basically, because if I lose, other people's catch up to 3-1 and can knock me down, like with a strength of schedule potentially.
Pressure was on.
The pressure was on. I got the guy who was down paired first, so he got up paired later. So he had a strange tournament as well. He played Lando Red, my nemesis deck on Karabast.
Oh.
But he was new. He was an old Destiny guy, so I knew him. But he started playing like a week before prior. He had not gotten all the cards yet, so like it was a Lando red without every card. So versus a fully stacked Boba Green deck. So game 1 he actually got me to like 25 HP or something damage. Game 2 wasn't close. So that was like that was a like interesting tournament. All my opponents went 2-2 or 3-1.
I'm a bit curious. What made you bring Boba again?
That's a good question. I think it's mainly because I lost with Ray.
So you're like, nah, I don't want to play this anymore.
Yeah, and also like as a tangent, we were gonna go into the meta analysis, like how to read metas later, and like I had just kind of a feeling that the Boba was gonna do well into those players who I thought was gonna come.
Okay.
And like I had done the tweaking, it had been feeling a little bit better. So it was like on the day I was deciding between Ray or Boba Green, but I went for the Boba Green. I wanted to try the commission more, like see it in action, because I actually I went home to Costa 5 days before. I took 2 decks with me, and I just like, I'm bringing these 2 commissions. Maybe I put them in or not, and then they came out to be super useful. Nice. That was actually like this trying to do it's hard to do the local meta read when you don't have a local meta. You have to predict others' local meta.
But you have some kind of understanding of the Swedish meta, right? Because some of the people playing online might be known in the different store level communities as well.
Yes. And also I have like, people usually know when I'm showing up, so I kind of want to switch it up a bit sometimes, so they don't like. I'm not saying I am like people just want to beat me. It's not that, but like if in Göteborg is gonna be that next season, of course. But if people know what you bring and you are like someone that travels to win, people will prep against it at least. So,
and rightfully so.
Rightfully so. Yeah. So that's that, I guess.
Yeah.
Then we also finished. We have to shout out the Swedish TTS League a little bit. We finished up that one. That was quite an interesting run. Now I ran Hunt Green in that one actually and won, beating Kira Green, Boba Yellow. It was actually Hero Boba Yellow, actually a very close match, and then a Sabine in the final. So that was actually pretty good spread there as well. So we are actually.
So was it a top 8 cut of a season? Or?
It was actually like a top 6 where the top 2 got a bye, and I was not one of the top 2s. So I had to do the quarter first, and then into the semis, and then into the final.
Yeah. And for the non-Swedish listeners, or even the Swedish listeners that just want to know more about the Swedish TTS League.
Online league.
Online league. How do you guys play? Like, is it just random pairings? Is it Swiss? Do you just decide some games among yourself, or?
How do you feel, Victor? How is it played out?
It's a Swiss tournament first, but then you can switch your decks, and you can play anywhere you like if you can meet up with the people. But we're spread out all over the country, so most people will play online. You can do it with a webcam, or if there are other platforms that people want to use, they are free to do so. And then after a couple of rounds of Swiss, depending on how many players there are, Adam makes a top cut for us, and it's been a top 8 most of the time, been top 4 sometimes, and now last time it was top 6. I think for this season might be 6 again, right?
I think we've done top 8s a few times and top 6s. like there's usually been like some people dropping off, and if there is too generous of a top cut, it feels like the four Swiss rounds doesn't matter. So now like but we want it to be quite inclusive, not exclusive as well. So maybe a more generous top cut than maybe it would be on like a big event, but and also like it's meant to be able to practice normal decks in the Swiss round, so you can like get the feel and use this as like a prep tool. Since we run it like one game a week, so it's like usually takes a month, something like that.
Slightly over. It's usually like people will play a lot of meta decks in it.
Actually,
but they will usually switch them around. And I think a lot of people use it as, like you said, a tool to tune their versions of their meta decks and the decks they want to bring to actual things. And since you don't have to lock into what you're actually going to stick with until the top cut, you can try things out a little bit, but people aren't going very wild. Like, I think usually the Swedish meta is quite conservative. People are quite aware of what is being played right now. People watch tournaments online, people read articles and watch YouTube. So you'd find a lot of the Swedish meta is quite dependent on what's been going well in the international tournaments. However, it's a clear, I'd say, like if you compare to especially American metas, the Swedish meta has a distinct controllier tone to it. People tend to play slightly slower decks rather than the fastest decks. So Sabine might be 60% of the meta in a lot of tournaments around the world, but in Europe usually it's slightly lower, and in Sweden especially it's a lot lower. Like the Sabine and the Carlos and Han Green, they are a lot less common here than they would be. They're still common, obviously, but they're not as common here.
Especially like the new Han Green is not seen a lot in Sweden, I feel like.
No, clearly, like in Malmö, people were taken aback by Christopher Rostoy's hand to green. Like, people did not know what that was, even though it had been quite publicized. So that was surprising to me, but clearly that was the case.
I think that's a super fun deck.
Yeah.
People played a lot of Sabine in set 1 because it was very cheap, I feel like, not necessarily because all the Swedes wanted to play it. And now when all the decks are like similar in cost, as you say, Victor, people are actually moving out to a little bit more of the slower paced game styles.
No, but I think even in set 1, you could tell that people that was on the very fast Sabines were there, like you said, not because it's their play style, more because it's cheap. So you could tell that they weren't doing very well with those decks, whereas there were a lot of people that were really successful going with Krennic and those decks.
True.
And like that's what opened the door for Tobbe and all his shenanigans with Churros back in set 1. Like, he could really dominate the meta, or even Caleb with IG88.
Yeah.
That deck would not have been able to do that in a Sabine heavy meta with proper aggressive players.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
So,
all right. So should we move on a bit? Victor, you talked last week about your Showdown experience, but you have another one upcoming now in a couple of days.
Yeah, we have our Uppsala Showdown coming up Thursday, so 2 days from now, which is going to be slightly smaller than the Stockholm ones. Both of the ones in Stockholm were around 20 players. This one's going to be maybe half that or something like that. And
it's also on a weekday, right? So it's natural.
It's on a Thursday evening. It's best of one. We are trying pre-boarded decks, so you get to use you flip your leader and your base, and then you do sideboarding, and then you play best of one.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun concept just to practice playing with your sideboard, I think. what I'm most when we're talking about reading metas, what I'm most curious about here is like if you look at the Stockholm showdowns, you had the first one at the Dragon's Lair, which saw a lot of wild decks. Like people were bringing the fun stuff out.
Yeah, the Thrawn Green, right?
Yeah, and you had like the winner of that was actually a Boba Yellow, but it was absolutely not your standard Boba Yellow. It was a space deck with Triple Dark Raid into early Fire Sprays, and it was just a wild deck. It was so fun. And then the runner-up was a Thrawn deck. Like, it was... People were bringing wild stuff, and that was Alexander Lutz, who usually he's very sticky to his decks. He's been playing
Krennic.
things. Yeah, he's been playing Krennic again. Like, he's back on Krennic. That's the kind of guy he's normally.
Yeah. He
and
top
here
16
just,
at Malmö.
Yeah, exactly. And now he's just bringing wild stuff and coming in second. And then what happens is, like, the next store showdown at Alpha Spel, everyone's on Boba, and it's like, I want to win something. I want to get some cards. I'm not bringing garbage. So it was hyper meta. Like, it was Boba Yellow all around almost. And yeah.
And Han Yellow sneaked it.
Yes, Han Yellow sneaked it.
Yeah.
Because Han Yellow is really good into Boba Yellow.
Yeah.
Can grind that much out. And again, that's a really good meta call from Philip, because he was on fairly wild stuff at Dragon's Lair. Let me see. Philip was playing... no, he was running the Dragon's Lair. He wasn't playing. He couldn't play, obviously.
He was scouting.
Yeah, he was scouting. So then to Alpha Spell, he brought a really tight deck that he was aiming to win with, obviously.
Yeah, and Philip has been doing quite well in store showdowns in general. Like, he took down 2 on set 1, right? Of like maybe 4 he attended 2 or 3 or something
like that. No, Philip's a really good player. He's always been really stable. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Cool.
So that's and then we have the upcoming Card Expo, as you slightly mentioned, I think, on the 29th, right?
On Sunday. And that's actually a slightly larger tournament. I think we're going to be like 40 people or even more.
Wow,
that's fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We've been looking forward to that one a lot. It's a winner box tournament, so there's some pricing to it. There's also, since it's the collector card expo or whatever, something like that. So there's one of these grading companies that grade cards.
Yeah,
they're giving price pools of basically store credit, so you can get your cards graded with these little plastic boxes that says it's
slabs.
Slabs. I'm not super into that scene, but that's nice.
Yeah, like could be good to have if the cards become really valuable sometimes, like my showcases. So use that. But I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. It's on a Sunday, and it's I live far from, but it's going to be cool to see how that tournament goes.
Yeah.
I
think that is like all about the Swedish meta we have today, right?
Yeah, I can try to...
we might want to shout out some more tournaments coming up, even though we're not attending them, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Västerås, Malmö, and Skövde is playing on the 28th. Every of those on the same days, 3 store showdowns. I will be trying to attend either Skövde or Malmö. It's not put in stone yet. Jason, I'm quite sure, is playing on Skövde, and I think Matthias, Judge Matthias, is there as well. And that's on the infamous Marnatorsk that we've been talking about a lot in this pod. So that's what's also coming up. And then we have to talk about the French one, right, Jonah?
Right.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks back, we had a French guest on the pod, Aaron Dale, right?
I think that's correctly.
Hero Boba from Shadows of the Galaxy, combined with the blue base. And
which was very spicy.
This was a 150 player tournament or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. It's very huge. As actually, like, we have talked a lot about the Malmö, but this one is twice. twice the size. Was it 8 rounds of Swiss into a top 64 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane though.
It's like Euros in Destiny, and this is just
Yeah.
an event.
He was right claiming France has a big scene.
Yeah. We all was like, do you really? And I was like, yeah, we have a big scene.
No, but still 64 top cut.
Yeah.
That's why even bother with the Swiss rounds then?
I like it. I like it. You still need to go like 6-2, I think, which is like quite difficult. It all depends on like how the pricing and stuff. If it's a 2-day event, then for sure. If it's a 1-day event, I'm gonna agree with you there. Like you don't have the time to do a top 64 on a 1 day. But if there's a 2-day, like a top 64 is not. I think it's not more games than you play on the Swiss round anyway, day one. So it becomes this kind of a grind fest. I kind of like the PQ in Copenhagen is gonna be right. Like, is it 7 rounds of Swiss into a top 8 on the same day?
But that's on the other end of the spectrum. That's too smaller top cut.
Yeah.
But you know, there are things in between 64 and 8.
But I mean, like in Copenhagen, you have all in 1 day, right? So it's going to be a grind fest. Like, you're just going to test your mental fortitude, like
more than anything.
The players picking up Basque Blue are gonna hate themselves after that.
Yeah.
They are not playing the game for a week after that. That's for sure.
Yeah. But to finish up, Arendil did 6-2 in Swiss. He won his top 64 and then lost top 32. So he had some pretty good strengths of schedule and finished 18th. So kudos.
A lot of kudos.
Nice to see the deck performing at such a large setting.
And if you want to see the updated version, because it's definitely a lot of changes since he was on the pod, you can find them if you join the Discord, and I think he posted the link and everything there, so people can follow it and try it out.
He did.
Well done
really cool
of him.
Yeah. And I can try to, just off the top of my memory, go through. There has been, I think, 3 showdowns in the Oslo area.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So the first one was in Moss. I think Jesper won that one. He's a very active player in the community. Played Bobo Yellow last season. Now he's on Kira. I think he actually prefers the 30 health base, so Kira Green.
Same.
But without TCL. So pretty cool to see. Actually, I think at that event a blue Chewbacca made it to second place.
Yeah, when you were talking about other leaders doing mono blue, Chewbacca actually sprang to mind because it's naturally a bit defensive.
Yeah.
So that was where my mind went.
Yeah. So Alan is a really nice player. He likes to pick up some casual decks here and there. So cool to see him perform with that.
Cool.
Definitely.
And then there was actually the Outland Oslo decided to do a 2-day event for Store Showdown. So
that is sick.
Yeah, they reached out to the community and asked what they preferred because they don't have that many available hours on the weekdays. So it was actually Tuesday and Wednesday. But it worked out. They did 4 rounds best of 1 Swiss and then the top 8 on the next day.
Like, as long as the community is there and are deciding it with them, I think there is no problem making it 2 days. If people want, it's just good fun. 2 days of playing unlimited. What could be wrong?
No, like you say, if you involve your community, anything goes.
Yeah.
Like, as long as the people playing the game are happy, what's the problem?
And Jesper took that one home as well with the Kira deck. But then this Sunday there was a third one at Midgard Games where they just played Swiss. And Kostas, a Palpatine player who played Vader Green in last season,
Yeah.
He won it with the Palp Yellow, actually.
Interesting. Nice.
So cool to see him moving away from green. He played that in the beginning. But I think he understood that in order to be able to beat Jesper with his Kira, he needed a little bit more oomph for the late game, right? To answer those Avengers and Palp's return, bringing more threats and so forth.
Sneak attack Devastators are pretty devastating.
Yeah. And just stealing stuff with
Yeah.
Change of Heart is also very nice.
Yeah, that's pretty nice too. Yeah. Stealing and killing.
Yeah, so I'm not located in Oslo right now, so that's I think that's all I can say.
Yeah.
Let me know, Oslo players, if I got anything wrong.
It was probably correct, right? We trust the one with friends. You're updated.
So, we have kind of checked off the reporting we want to do.
Yeah.
So now more maybe into a bit more creative conversation because we've talked about these store level events being a bit special in the case where you maybe know players coming, you maybe know the store, maybe you know if, as you said, it's a more aggro focused meta or more control players, and how does that affect the preparation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really the billion-dollar question, though.
Yeah.
Like, how do you read the meta? That's, if we could do that accurately, we would win stuff a lot more.
Yeah. We would, yeah.
Yeah. It's tough because you never really know. Even though you prep really hard, you don't know. Even if you actually read the meta correctly, you might be unlucky and just get randomly paired up against things that aren't really prevalent in the meta. Like if you look at a tournament that's jam-packed full of Sabine players, like the big Manchester tournament, and then there's a Palpatine going to the final.
Yeah.
In that a Palp Blue going into the final because he dodged all those Sabines or throughout the evening, and you know, you even though you do read it correctly, you might end up.
That
it
is
doesn't
kind of
mean
the
that it
nature
ends
of
up correctly. Yeah, you might do the prep right and still get punished. Yeah,
but how do you do the prep right? Adam, you've kind of proved yourself in reading meta, I would say.
Yeah, like at some extent, for sure. It is a little bit harder, I think, for me since I don't play locally with all the people. So sometimes you might have friends that can tell you a little bit of what's played around in the meta if you want to scout a little bit. But what I would say, like, you could look in two ways into it. Like, you could take, as Victor said, like Sweden as a whole, and like say it's usually a bit more on the controller side. So you can take that approach, like to think that you should be either go even like so fast, like with the super aggro, or you go the latest of all, and like just capitalize on that. But sometimes also, like, the one problem is you have to find a deck that fits you a little bit. Like, sometimes I make the meta read that this is probably the best deck. Like, sometimes I've actually felt like Palpatine is the best deck to run, but I play Palpatine like shit. Like, I am not patiently enough, like, or I'm over patiently and don't finish the game with him, because I am more of the aggro or tempo mid range, or like at my core, like I can go to. I really enjoy like the Ray Blue, like super grindy mid range things, but I am not a control player. Like I want to put pressure, so I try to put pressure with a deck too early that is not supposed to put pressure. So you also have to know your limits. You cannot always not just take the best deck. You have to nail down what works for you, and then actually, like, who's the best player coming to the tournament that I know? I do not want to have a poor matchup against him. At least that's what I'm. That's where I would start.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned some levels here, and we can kind of think of the prep and the meta reading in levels as well, right? You can start on nothing about the local meta, then maybe just use the global meta. The gauntlet with Sabine, Boba, and Kira being great. Kind of prepare a little bit for those, and then if you know maybe a bit more, it's a very aggro focused, and maybe pick a mid-range deck. And then maybe a specific player that is really good at the game, and you know they love Kira, for instance, with Jesper and Oslo, so you need to make sure you can beat that deck. Yeah. And then you get closer and closer, and maybe that will affect what deck you pick, or it will just tune your own deck.
Yes.
Right?
And that's actually the approach I would recommend if you're serious about what you're playing. You need to find something that you like Adam said, and then you need to tune it, and you need to find lines in that deck towards the stuff that could be a bad matchup. We've talked already today a lot about the Boba Green, the Boba ECL of the Malmo, the Jakob and Jakob build. That deck, they just grabbed the deck they really gravitated towards, a deck they really liked. As a whole, and then they started tuning it. That's what they did. They didn't invent Boba ECL.
No.
They just tuned it into how can we approach this deck into the things that we are seeing around us. And I think more than picking the cards, that is finding how to play the cards that you have in the deck, like finding lines. So all right, so I'm facing off against hand 2 blue. What lines am I playing? What do I mulligan for? What cards am I bringing in from the sideboard? Like finding these lines. That's really where meta reading should be at, in my opinion.
Yeah. So maybe what you can learn from the meta read is to kind of make up a short list of decks you need to respect, and then you can playtest them a bit and think, okay, if I am facing Boba, maybe the Sabine unit is great to answer Greedo and Crafty Smuggler instead of a Battlefield Marine, right?
Yeah.
You will figure out some decisions that can help you with mulligans, with sideboarding, and even with deck building.
And then there is, like, as you said, Jonah, if you take the one where you actually don't know that much, which has actually been like quite a lot of my experiences, like going into tournaments, since I don't play locally, I want to pick a deck. Then I choose a deck that has a lot of 50-50 matchups, or like as few dead ones as possible, or like that I can build a sideboard that actually tilts the bad ones in like a decent state, even though I don't necessarily know what I'm going to face. Like maybe it would have been right to go Sabine because there is so many Kiras, then that's amazing, but I don't know. So I pick Boba, for example, because Boba can beat Kira. It's not as good at it, but I have tweaked the deck to do it. So that's how I did a lot in set 1, which I ran a lot of Boba Green and then eventually Han Green, because those were like so good into most things. Like, of course, some bad matchups. Like Han Green did not want to face Luke, but Luke, nobody really played Luke. So
yeah, I think that's a very smart take. I also talked to Jonas, the creator of the Cad Bane Blue deck, and that was kind of his approach as well. That he basically wanted to build a mid-range deck that works into everything, and just makes him able to outskill his opponent.
Yeah.
So just rely on actually playing better.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's really the thing there. If you're building something that's decent into everything, you're not gonna have easy matchups anywhere. Yeah. That means that you every time have to be better than your opponent.
Yeah, because it's not the self-playing piano always like. And that's why many people gravitate to Kira when that one just popped up, because that one has Kira ACL is really bad into Sabine, but people did not really know that in the beginning. But like other than that, it has a lot of skillful matchups, and that's why it has quite a low win percent in a lot of tournaments, because you actually have to play better.
It's a really skill intensive deck.
In almost every game you have to play better. Like, you don't get these freebies as, like, if I play Sabine and I play Pulp Green, like,
you just win.
I just win, like, unless I am ultra bad and the opponent also is quite lucky. Like, you have to have the both things. And so sometimes you also have to play to your strength. Like, if you feel like yourself is not the best player, don't pick the most complicated deck. You practice with the easier decks.
It's hard to say, because
like, you see lines in some decks that other don't and stuff like that, but like something that falls more natural to you, and then you can like explore these decks later as you get more comfortable with the game and like go into it. But that approach like works if you actually want to try to outskill people to go to the most 50-50. This game is so wide and versatile, so you're gonna have bad matchups because there is like so many leaders you can play like and actually win games with.
It's cool.
How do you do, Jonah? You haven't you've just asked here and tried to scout in for
no, I think I've also managed to sneak in some of my opinions here and there. I think I basically do the approach that I mentioned earlier, where I pick a deck. I think, first of all, I want to play it, I like it, and I think it's okay in the meta. And then I make sure that I feel comfortable in the matchups. Not necessarily that they're super favored for me, but I know how the matchup works. I have some thoughts on what I could utilize from a sideboard. Just a little bit about like a little bit of prep for a matchup really helps out, I would say.
Yeah. Especially in this game, I feel like getting games in is so valuable. Can't just theory craft.
No.
And
of course you can, but you're not going to win tournaments that way.
Yeah.
I threw together something crazy the other night and just put it out on Carbras, and I won a couple of games, but then you run into someone that actually knows what they're doing, and you're not going to win, you know?
Yeah. And then there is this last thing. When you actually try to read the meta as a group, there could be like quite good to actually discuss with each other, so you don't try to hide things from each other, like trying to almost, because that can become like false information to each other, even though, so maybe sometimes the best thing is just to try to decide to go the same deck. But, try to find the best deck and we go it together, because when I go with people, I kind of don't want, if I think these people I've practiced with is really good, I don't want to go with a deck that they counter me with. Like, that's not what I want to do. But I don't necessarily want to switch deck because I know these guys are going to play it and counter them, because that's kind of dirty. So
I think that's really interesting, because that depends on who you're prepping with and your relationship to them.
Yes.
Like, from the old Thrones meta, we were such a large meta that you pair up rather than limited. Even though we had this big server where we were talking about decks and everyone was involved, in the end you'd pair up me and this guy or these two guys. But what happens when you do that, when you get really close into that, you get into that situation where Jonas and Steven was, where you don't really care to beat your opponent. Like, the guy you prepped with is not your enemy. You're really happy if that. If you become teammates, and then you easily fold if you think the other guy has a better. Like if I'm matched up with the person I built the deck with, we're going to talk through who we think has the best shot at it, and I'll fold the mirror. And I think usually if you find yourself in the final, obviously you're going to go at it.
Yeah.
But you know, if it's like Jonas and Steven, if you find yourself in the first round of the top cut, maybe it's smarter to just talk about it and see where you land. And I wouldn't feel weird about doing exactly what Jonas did, just dropping.
Yeah.
In that case. But if it's a larger group, or if you don't have that camaraderie, then you end up where you kind of the headspace you were talking about that.
Yeah. Like so I think like just when you prep as a group, it's nice to be clear and have open information. Like me and Jonah, we were prepping a lot, even though we were not always on the same decks. Like we were both really on Sabine, like thinking on Sabine,
for a long time.
Even though Jonah explored more in the beginning and then like swinged out to the different styles afterwards. And then I locked it like after trying a lot of things and I didn't really think thought it worked. So I locked it, and then Jonah, you were on the Blue Han, and I felt like I didn't think I had the time to learn it, because I also actually thought it was really good. But I knew that I would get like 4 times the games in with Sabine, because it's so much easier to play, faster to play. Sorry, not easier, faster. So it was like, and that's how our prep went. It was like open communication. It was not trying to beat Jonah or Jonah switching to the Blue Hunt to beat me, for example. It was. But like,
I think I very much agree with you. If you have someone very close that you're prepping with, it can kind of almost make it easier for you both if you decide to submit the same list.
Yeah.
Because then you've basically taken a standpoint and said, okay, we've put our minds together, and this is what we figured out will be the best shot.
Yeah.
This meta.
We think this is the best, and we gotta go with it. And it is actually quite a nice feeling. I've done it a few times. Like me and my brother have had the same deck going to Euros and stuff like that. And
but that is, of course, from the standpoint where you are open to playing different decks and not on the other side,
exactly.
where we
Sometimes
talk when you
don't
find
have
out
the
something you really like and you have more of a subjective way, right?
Yes.
If I figure out, okay, I'm an aggro player, I need this, you're a control player, you need that.
And then you just try to get each other better in that matchup. Like that is like nothing strange about that at all. It's just fun.
I think that's kind of a nice wrap up on the prep there. Also a bit about when you're having some mates. Any last thoughts, guys, on the preparations?
But just to reiterate, even though this is definitely a solitaire game, like you're playing as one-on-one, but don't be afraid to start thinking as a team when you're working on it, because it's so much fun. Like when you have teammates, kind of, you know, you have a lot of fun, and the community is so warm around this game that it's not hard to find people. You just reach out on a server or anywhere, and you'll find people that wants to do this with you, probably, if you don't have anyone to prep with.
That is that's true. I echo that. And like playing with others, that's why we play this game mostly. Also to beat others. That is very fun. I heard you talking about that, Victor. I know you want to smash people.
I love smashing people.
So you don't want to play 2v2. You want to... No. But,
no. That's the economy of this game. That's interesting. But, you know,
All right. So I think that will be it for today. Thanks a lot for joining. I feel like I've been a little bit of a Jason replacement today.
A good one.
Really good.
Thank you. Yeah. And of course, if you want to chat with us, see Arundel's list, or even see Adam's boba list, join the Discord.
As well.
We will make sure it's in the show notes, and check out the newest YouTube videos, commentary from Malmö, and also some I did quickly run through the top 16 decks.
Yes.
So
Good
that's
video.
also something that's new. So all of the lists from Malmö are there if you're intrigued. Some very cool list I want to shout out is Sabine Red. What?
Oh, yeah.
You thought Sabine Green was hot? Check this out. Okay, enough about that. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for
See you
listening.
around.
May the force be
Bye.
with you.
Bye.